The horse screamed first. Not the high, panicked whinny of a spooked animal, but a raw, guttural howl that tore out of Thunder's chest as the earth vanished beneath his hooves. Elias Caldwell felt the world tilt, felt the reins rip from his gloved hands, felt the sky swap places with the canyon floor. Then there was only wind, stone, and the sickening crack of bone, his own and the horse's, meeting the ravine in a single, violent collision. He woke to darkness and the taste of blood. Pain lived everywhere, in his ribs, his left leg, the back of his skull. Thunder lay 10 feet away, one foreleg bent at an angle no leg should ever know, eyes rolling white with terror. Elias crawled through gravel and his own vomit until he reached the gelding's head. He pressed his forehead to the sweat-soaked neck and whispered the same useless prayer he'd whispered the day his wife died of fever back in Missouri. "I'm sorry, old friend. I'm so sorry." The horse's breathing hitched, slowed, stopped. Elias stayed there until the stars came out and the cold began to chew through his coat. He thought about the gold claim he'd been chasing, the letter from his sister begging him to come home, the loneliness that had driven him west in the first place. All of it felt childish now, like toys a boy abandons when he realizes the world is sharper than he thought. He must have passed out again, because the next thing he knew there was firelight dancing on stone walls and the low murmur of voices speaking a language he did not know. A shadow fell across him, an old woman, small but straight-backed, silver braids thick as ropes over her shoulders. Her face was carved deep with years and weather, but her eyes held something fiercer than pity. She knelt, pressed 2 fingers to his throat, then to Thunder's still chest. She made a soft sound, regret, maybe anger, then barked an order. Hands lifted Elias. He tried to protest, but the pain dragged him back under. When he surfaced again, he was inside a wickiup that smelled of juniper smoke and herbs. His leg was splinted with willow and rawhide. Someone had washed the blood from his face. The old woman sat cross-legged by the fire, grinding something in a stone mortar. She did not look up when he stirred. "Where?" His voice cracked like dry wood. She answered without pausing her work. Her English was careful, deliberate, the accent of someone who had learned the language from soldiers and traders and chose her words the way a hunter chooses arrows. "You are on the land. Chiricahua. My name is Goyalu's daughter once removed. You will call me Taji." She lifted her dark eyes at last. "Your horse is dead. You are not, yet. That is a problem I have not decided how to solve." Elias tried to sit up and failed. "I didn't mean to trespass. I was following a map." "Maps lie," she said simply. "The land does not." He swallowed. "I have coin. In my saddlebags. Take it. Just, let me go when I can walk." Taji set the mortar aside. "Coin buys whiskey and bullets. It does not buy breath. You will decide what your breath is worth." She rose and left him alone with the fire and the smell of whatever medicine she was brewing. Outside, he heard children laughing, dogs barking, the ordinary sounds of people living their lives while he lay broken in the dark. Days blurred. Fever came and went. Taji and her daughter, a quiet woman named Nashka, changed his bandages, forced bitter tea down his throat, set and reset the bones when the swelling allowed. Elias expected hatred. He was a white man who had ridden armed onto their land, but hatred never came. Only watchful silence. One night the fever broke and he woke clear-headed for the first time. Moonlight spilled through the door flap. Taji sat outside, sharpening a knife by firelight. Elias dragged himself to the entrance. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. "Your people and mine, we've spilled enough blood." She tested the blade against her thumb. "My grandson was killed by bluecoats 2 winters ago. 12 years old. He liked to draw horses in the dirt." She looked up. "Do you think I keep you alive because I love white men, Mr. Caldwell?" He had no answer. "I keep you alive," she continued, "because my people are dying faster than we are born. The young ones grow up angry, quick to raise a rifle, slow to raise a garden. They need to learn something besides war. You will teach them. Teach them what? His laugh came out ragged. How to chase fool's gold until a horse breaks its neck. Taji stood. Even stooped with age, she seemed taller than the mountains around them. You were a captain in the Union cavalry, she said. It wasn't a question. You trained green boys to ride, to shoot, to stay alive when everything says die. My warriors ride like the wind, but they do not listen to the wind. They do not listen to each other. You will teach them discipline. You will teach them patience. And if you try to run, she flicked the knife so moonlight ran down the blade, I will find you. The canyon remembers every footprint. Elias stared at her, the fever sweat cooling on his skin. He had faced Confederate cannons with less fear than he felt looking at this small Apache woman. He nodded once. Taji sheathed the knife. Good. Tomorrow you begin.
The first morning they carried him out on a travois because he still could not walk. 20 young men and a handful of girls waited in a natural bowl ringed by red rock. Some glared openly. Others studied him the way wolves study an injured elk, curious whether he would provide meat or merely entertainment before he died. Taji spoke in Chiricahua. Elias caught only the tone, absolute command. Then she switched to English for his benefit. This is Elias. He will teach you what it means to be a unit, not just a collection of proud hearts. You will obey him as you obey me. If he falls, you pick him up. If he gives an order you do not like, you do it anyway. The mountain does not care about your feelings. A tall youth with a scar across his cheek, Jewish son, Nach, spat to one side. Why learn from a man who cannot stand? Elias met his eyes. Because I've fallen farther than you can imagine, boy, and I'm still breathing. That's the first lesson. They laughed, but it was the brittle laugh of young men testing edges. The early weeks were agony. Elias taught from a crude crutch, barking orders while sweat soaked his shirt. He made them run the ridge at dawn, carrying water gourds instead of rifles. He taught them to move as one, to signal with hands when words would betray them to an enemy. When they mocked his accent or his limp, he made them run the ridge again. At night he collapsed into his blankets and wondered if hate or gratitude would kill him first. But something shifted, the way spring shifts winter without announcement. One afternoon a dust storm roared down the canyon, the kind that blinds horses and buries camps. The young riders scattered in panic. Elias, leaning heavily on his crutch, limped into the teeth of it and began shouting the cadence he had once used to keep terrified recruits moving through cannon smoke. One by one they fell in behind him, heads down, trusting the rhythm of his voice over the scream of the wind. When they stumbled back into camp hours later, coated in red grit, not a single pony was lost, not a single child left behind. Nach was the first to offer him water from his own canteen. After that, the mockery stopped. Taji watched everything. Some evenings she brought him rabbit stew and sat in silence while he ate. One night she spoke. You are becoming a man again, Elias. I was not sure you still knew how. He stared into the fire. I lost that man somewhere between Missouri and here. No, she said softly. He fell into the ravine with the horse. You climbed out. Summer ripened into autumn. Elias's leg healed crooked but strong. He could ride again, though he refused any horse but a quiet mare Taji insisted was too old to throw you. The young warriors, his warriors now, followed him on scouting runs, on hunts, on quiet patrols that kept the ranchers and the army at bay without a shot fired. They learned to read the land the way he had once read battlefields, where ambush waited, where water hid, where a single misplaced track could mean death. One crisp October night the campfires burned low and the people gathered for a ceremony of thanks. Taji stood and called Elias forward. In her hand she held a buckskin shirt decorated with blue and crimson porcupine quills, the pattern of a soaring thunderbird across the chest. This is not a gift, she told the circle. It is a debt. You came to us broken. You leave us whole. Elias's throat closed. He had no words in English or Chiricahua grand enough. He touched the shirt with reverent fingers. Mage stepped forward next, holding something wrapped in soft doeskin. When he unfolded it, Elias saw his old Union saber, the one he'd carried since Shiloh, the one he thought lost in the ravine. The blade had been cleaned, the hilt wrapped with new rawhide and beads. We kept it, Mage said gruffly. A warrior should not lose his song. Elias took the saber. For the first time in years, it felt light in his hand, as if the weight of every battle had been lifted. Later, when the drums fell silent and stars crowded the sky, Taji walked with him to the edge of camp. The army is coming, she said quietly. Scouts saw dust 2 days west. They will offer blankets and promises. Some of our young men will want to fight. Others will want to trust. Elias looked toward the dark horizon. What will you do? What I have always done. Protect my people. She paused. I am old. The ancestors call. When I am gone, they will need someone who understands both worlds. Someone who has fallen and risen. He turned to her, sudden fear sharp in his chest. You want me to stay? I want you to choose, she corrected. The land does not force a man's heart. It only reveals what is already there. 3 nights later the soldiers came, 30 troopers in blue coats, a captain with a white flag. Their captain, a tired man with kind eyes, asked for parley. The young warriors gripped rifles, waiting for Elias's signal. He stepped forward, saber at his side, Thunderbird bright on his chest. Captain, Elias called, voice carrying across the firelit space. These people have shown me more honor than any uniform I ever wore. Go back and tell your colonel that if he wants this land, he'll have to ride through me first. The captain studied him a long moment, saw the set of his jaw, the fierce loyalty in the faces behind him. He nodded once, turned his horse, and rode away. The dust of their departure was the only sound for a long while. Years later, old men around reservation fires would tell of the white warrior who wore the Thunderbird, who taught the young to fight with wisdom instead of rage, who stood between the Ndi and the Bluecoats until the winter the snow fell red with smallpox and white blankets. They would say he never left the canyon, that he married Nashka and raised sons who spoke 2 languages and carried 1 heart. But the truest part of the story, the part the children begged to hear again and again, was simpler. A man fell into a ravine with his horse. An Apache Matriarch reached down and said, "Your life is not finished." And because one woman chose mercy when the world taught her vengeance, a broken soldier remembered how to be human, and an entire people found the strength to endure. In the end, the ravine did not take something, it took his past. But it gave him a future he never dared dream, stitched together with porcupine quills and starlight and the fierce, unbreakable love of a people who taught him that the measure of a man is not how far he falls, but how many hands reach out to pull him up, and how willingly, when it is his turn, he reaches back. And somewhere, on quiet nights when the wind moves through the pines like a song, you can still hear thunder's last scream turning into laughter, as if the horse, too, understands. Even the deepest fall can end in rising, if someone, somewhere refuses to let go.